The wild boy of Auca had never before seen anything like this. In his little village, he was the only human being in a sea of anthropoids. He had never even dreamed of seeing a woman. As he stood there, gaping at the scene in front of him, a woman in a white dress and a young man in uniform came up from the landing stage on the river bank. The girl looked around her with a smile on her face, and the boy took off his cap and bowed to her. The boy looked very handsome. His hair was light brown and curled close to his head. He had large, kind eyes and an open, friendly expression. The girl smiled back at him as if she liked him very much. The boy put his cap back on and pointed at the wild boy, who was still staring at him. "Do you want me to introduce you to her?" he asked. "Her? But I thought you were married." The girl laughed and said, "No, he's not married. That's why I came here, to get away from my husband. Do you know what I mean?" "No, I'm not married either," said the boy. The girl laughed again. "I knew you weren't married. Well, don't let's stand here all day. My name is Nejda, and I'll call you my little brother." She held out her hand to the wild boy. He was so astonished by what was happening that he could only stare at it. She took his hand in both of hers and shook it. "It's nice to meet you at last. You're the first man I've ever met in my life." The boy said, "I've been here for a long time and I haven't seen any women at all. That's why I thought you might be one. I'm Pavel, and I'll call you my sister." Nejda looked around her and said, "Well, isn't this place nice? Look, Pavel, over there on the hill there's a tree with a funny-looking fruit growing on it." Pavel said, "I wonder how they do it. It looks as if the tree's growing upside down." Nejda laughed. "Yes, I know what you mean, but I think it's very funny anyway. Just look at the house there." They walked along the riverbank, talking to each other as they went. They stopped once or twice to admire the view. After about half an hour, they came back to the landing stage. As soon as the boat came in sight, Nejda said, "Goodbye, Pavel. Thank you for all the nice things you've done for me. If you ever need anything, please come to me, because I'm sure you're going to be very happy here. Goodbye, little brother." "Goodbye, little sister," said Pavel. Pavel waved as the boat went on downstream, then turned and went into the house. That evening the wild boy couldn't help thinking about what had happened that day. He had never imagined that he would see a girl, or that there were such things as men or women. He felt as if he was dreaming, and he had to make himself remember what had happened in order to make sure that he was awake. It was almost more than he could bear to have someone else who was a real human being in the world, especially someone like Nejda. It made him feel as if his heart would burst with happiness. After supper, Pavel said, "Well, are you going to show me around our house or not?" The wild boy thought about what he should do next. Then he said, "All right, I'll take you round and introduce you to everyone." The next morning, when they went into the kitchen, the cook said, "Good morning, Nejda, and how is my little brother this morning?" Nejda smiled at her and said, "I'm fine. Thank you very much for asking." The cook laughed and said, "I hope you didn't catch cold last night." Nejda laughed too and said, "No, I was so warm that I didn't feel the cold at all." The wild boy smiled because he could tell that the cook was quite taken with Nejda, and he thought that perhaps he was too. When they had finished their breakfast, they set out to see everything. Pavel showed Nejda all the work that the wild boy had done since he'd arrived. He also told her about the time he had gone hunting and come home to find his dinner missing. He laughed as he told her about his disappointment because he couldn't find his dinner anywhere. He said that they'd never seen anything like it. The wild boy wondered what had happened to his dinner, but he didn't ask.